Okay, guys, please turn your cameras on before we start, whenever you're able to. Okay, I'm gonna wait. Okay, so everyone needs to have their camera on. Okay then, so today we'll continue working on the reading section. If you remember, we were looking at the types of questions that you can get in the reading part, and we went through, I believe, 4 of them. So we saw vocabulary questions, the first ones, detailed questions, except type of question, and we also looked at the reference questions, which were, super quick to do. So let's look at that. So vocabulary was asking for the synonym of a word. It needed to match both in meaning and context. The detailed questions were mostly about some very factual, detailed information. You needed to look for keywords, red flags. You need to narrow down your information. Remember that it's just going to be a portion of the text, and you need to paraphrase the options. And then we saw except type of question, didn't we? Have we seen this one? I'm not so sure about this one. So have we done this as well?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Great, thanks. So yes, in these ones, you needed to go through each option like a checklist, and the one that you had left was the right one. So now we're going to move on to the inference questions that we have here. Now, these ones are a bit different than the other ones, because in this case, you don't have to look for the answer, because it's not going to be there no matter how much you look for it. Because they're not going to be asking for information that is mentioned in the paragraph. Instead, they will ask for information that's implied in the paragraph. So that's something that's not directly or explicitly stated there. So you will have to kind of read between the lines, try to figure out, what information you're missing, and draw conclusions. Okay, so you don't have to find the answer; you have to get to it. You have to draw your own conclusions and come to a realization. Basically, it's all about logic. So you will see what I mean. And they're not that frequent, but you will always have two per passage. So let's take a look at this example in here. Will you guys please read the question for me?
Yes, teacher. What can be inferred from paragraph 3 about Quiquilco prior to 200 BC? It was a fairly small city until that day. It was located outside the Valley of Mexico. It emerged rapidly and as an economical and political center. Its economy relied heavily on agriculture.
Okay, thank you so much, Lou. Thanks. So that's the question. Now, what we're gonna do is I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to read this paragraph and try to try to think of what the answer could be, okay? And let me know. So we'll see. Okay. So what's your take? What would you say?
Letter D.
Literally, yes.
Okay. Do you all agree with D? Anybody has a different opinion? No, you all agree? Okay, that's awesome. Fantastic. Okay, guys, so yeah, you are right. D is actually the answer. Now, can anybody tell me why?
Because it says Cuilco has had an agricultural land and it was covered by lava. So I think that's the key.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so yes, you're completely right. That's the key part. So you need to think of the things that you do know about Cuicuilco prior to 200 before Christ, right? So what is it that you know, the information that's there in the past, in the paragraph? So the first thing you know is that it was the largest of the centers. So it was a powerful, large center. Second thing you know is that the volcanic eruption happened and covered most of it if it's agricultural land. And what happened after that? As a result, Cuicuilco was eliminated as a potential rival, which basically means like they disappeared, they went down so suddenly after the volcanic eruption happened. So something's missing there, and you need to find out what that is. And that's option D, isn't it? As Joel says, you know that because the agricultural land was covered by lava, they were eliminated as potential rivals. So why is that? That must be because their economy relied heavily on agriculture. So as you can see it this way, you can try to add that information here and it makes much more sense, right? Cuicuilco was seriously affected by this volcanic eruption, much of its agricultural land covered by lava. And since its economy relied heavily on agriculture, they will eliminate it as potential rival. So that's the thing that you're missing. You're reading between the lines, coming to that conclusion. And of course, you do have to have evidence, right? Now, some things I can say about this one, it's usually never going to be about the details. Whenever you see what can be inferred, you know, it's an inference question, and it's probably going to be on the most important idea of the paragraph. So here we're trying to explain how Cuicuilco disappeared or was out of the picture and was not a rival to Teotihuacan. And we know that that's because of the volcanic eruption, okay? It couldn't be something so simple as it was a fairly small city because it's too detailed. And, you know, some people will say, okay, it was a relatively small center. I don't know. It was located outside the Valley of Mexico. Maybe it was near the Valley of Mexico. Maybe it was in the Valley of Mexico. It will be too easy anyhow. So try to think of that idea. Okay, guys, well done. So you got it right. You all got it right. Any questions about that one? Okay, I'm glad you find it is.
I have one. It's not a question. It's like I don't know how is this consejo.
Okay.
Well, I read once that in this kind of questions, you had to be able to justify the answer that you have choose with the paragraph that is in the screen. For example, in the letter C, it says something that not appear in the paragraph, but it could be true, but it's not in the paragraph.
Okay. Yes, exactly. Thanks for the tip, Love. So yes, that's totally right. You'd have to be able to justify, to prove what you're saying, to demonstrate it, to have evidence on this. You know, the other group was telling me something about C. Somebody said, I think it's C, and their justification was, okay, so here you have something that when Cuicuilco was eliminated as a potential rival, the other centers, the modest towns, emerged as a leading economic and political power. So he was saying, if when Cuicuilco was eliminated as a rival, the other ones emerged rapidly, that must mean that before prior to 200 BC, Cuicuilco was the one that emerged rapidly as an economical and political center. So Cuicuilco was the leading power. And when this thing happened and they were eliminated, the other towns took their place. So that was his justification, which can be true. You know, we don't know how rapidly Cuicuilco emerged. We don't know. It doesn't say anything about that. It doesn't say anything about how it happened. How it just says directly they were the largest of the centers, but we have no idea how that happened. And even though we can, you know, think, okay, this might have happened, we cannot justify it. You know, we cannot prove that they emerged rapidly. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, maybe they took ages in developing. So yes, as Eloy is saying, you need to be able to prove it, to justify with something from the passage. Okay. So yes, the answer is D. Well done. Okay, guys. Now here we have the purpose questions, the next one. And in this case, they will be asking about the purpose or the function of a word, of a sentence, of an element from the passage, basically. They're not that frequent, which means that you can have one or you can't have none. And they are mostly asking about the author's choices. So the author's decisions, like, why does the author use this word? Why does the author include this sentence or discuss this idea? Or why is this paragraph there? Okay, so they could be asking about the function, the reason of something. And the way that you need to answer it is by relating that element to the overall picture. So if they're asking for a word, then you need to think, how does that word contribute to the purpose of the sentence? So what's the purpose of that word in the sentence? If they're asking for a sentence, think about the paragraph. And if they're asking for the paragraph, you gotta think about the whole reading, about the whole passage. Now, the thing about this question is that if you decide to skip reading the passage and you do what we're doing right now, so paragraph 3, you read that paragraph. If you decide to do that, it might be harder in case you get one of these, in case you're being asked about the purpose of a paragraph, because you don't have the entire picture, you know? So in that case, if you think you cannot answer it, you don't know that much yet, my advice is just choose one randomly. And when you're done with the 10 questions at the end of the passage, not at the end of the reading section, try to go back. So you're going to have a better idea then. So go back and you're going to see, okay, so now I know what the paragraph is about, what the passage is about, and you can answer it, okay? So that's a tip I can give you. But let's see how it works. So who can read the question this time? Anybody? Maybe Patricia, do you mind?
Teacher, excuse me?
Yes, I'm reading the question.
Okay. In paragraph 6, the author discussed that thriving obsidian operation in order to A, explain why manufacturing was the main industry of Teotihuacan, B, give an example of an industry that took very little time to develop in Teotihuacan, C, illustrate how several factors influence each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city, and D, explain how much successful industry can be a source of wealth and source of conflict at the same time.
Thank you so much. So now again, I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes. Please try to look for the answer. In this case, you will find it there. So look for it. Okay, guys. So what's your guess?
I think C.
Okay. Do you all agree? Karina, what do you think?
C2.
All right, Bianca?
I'm agree. C2.
Okay, Carlos?
I would say it's letter C. Yes, C.
Okay, so anybody has another one? Okay, guys. So yes, well done. It is C. Congrats on that. To illustrate how several factors influence each other to make the Tehuacán a powerful and wealthy city. Nice. Now, can anyone tell me why?
I think because first, before the phrase, the author is talking about works that are made, a lot of works, and then it takes the example of Serbian obsidian operation, and then he explains that it needs manufacturers, tools, a lot of things in order to do this operation.
Okay. All right, perfect. So I like what you're saying about the first sentence and the next idea. So you see this, for example, here, right? The thriving obsidian operation, for example, would necessitate more miners and blah, blah, blah. So this is exactly what you're saying. Think of this sentence, for example, if I say, Bolivia has a lot of talented people. And then I say something like, one, for example, is a famous singer and songwriter, I don't know. Okay, now if I ask you, what's the purpose of Juan in those two sentences, then you're for sure gonna tell me, so Juan is an example of how Bolivia has a lot of talented people. So Juan is illustrating that idea that Bolivia has a lot of talented people. So it's the same what you have here. The thriving obsidian operation is an example of what you have before that. The picture of Teotihuacan is a classic picture of positive feedback among many factors, among obsidian mining, working, trade, population growth, blah, blah, blah. So that's it, you just need to find a paraphrase of that. You know that it's an example, so you can start by eliminating option A and option D because it's not explaining why or how. If it were that, then you would have something like, okay, so this was because the thriving obsidian operation, or this was achieved by using the thriving obsidian operation. So it's not it's not A nor D, right? Now it has to be B and C. Now, another thing I can say about this one specifically, when you have these purpose questions, always think of what the main idea of the paragraph is. I don't know if you guys remember this, but I said, usually you have it at the beginning, the first sentence, and everything that's after that, everything that comes later is gonna try and support that idea, back it up. Okay, so it's the same as we saw in the writing. I don't know if you remember, right? I said, please, in the first sentence, you need to mention what your idea is, what your claim is. And then in the next ones, you just need to support it. So you can give examples, you can add facts, provide evidence, whatever you want, but you just need to support that idea. So no matter what they ask you for, if they ask you why does the author include this, it's always going to support that main idea. So you just need to find what that is. And that is how basically every single factor influenced each other in creating this powerful city, because you have like a change of events. So the thriving obsidian operation necessitated more miners, which led to more manufacturers, more tools, which means more traders, which turns into more immigrants and then turns into this, and that, and that. So it's a chain of events that ends in a more powerful and wealthy city. Okay, guys? So well done. You got it right. I don't know if there are any questions about this one here. Is everything clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, guys. Now we have the paraphrase questions, which I personally love, mainly because you won't have to read that much. So it's not like these ones where you need to go back to the paragraph, try to find the answer. When you have the paraphrase question, everything you guys gotta do is just read whatever you have in the question. You don't have to look farther than that. The answer is gonna be in the same question in the sentence that they're asking for. It's not that frequent, unfortunately. And they're asking you to paraphrase something, to paraphrase a sentence. You need to look for a different way of saying it, using different words, synonyms. And the key here is not to include anything that's not in the original sentence and not to leave anything behind either. Okay, so you just need to find one that says exactly the same without leaving anything behind or including it. And that obviously has that idea, the same idea, the same purpose. So I'm gonna read this question. This one is, which sentence is most similar to the following sentence from paragraph 1? So you have the sentence here. The theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner. Okay, by the way, this is from an extract of The Theory of Evolution, Charles Darwin Theory of Evolution. I'm not using the same Teotihuacan reading passage because I couldn't find any paraphrase questions in that set. Okay, remember the one that we're using? I didn't find any paraphrase questions. Sometimes you don't have one. So that's why I'm using another set. Okay, but it doesn't matter because you should be able to do it. So read the options, think about it, and let me know. Okay, so what do you think? Which one is it? Any thoughts?
I think letter C.
Okay. Do you all agree? Anybody else?
I'm actually between option A and C, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Joel, what would you say?
I think it's A, teacher.
Okay, we got 2 8s. And Lucia, what about you?
I will say letter C too.
Okay. Jocabet? Will you say A or C? You're gonna break this tie. I'm sorry? I cannot hear you. I think there's a problem with your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Sorry. Letter A, teacher.
Okay, so letter A it is. So yeah, it's actually letter A. The theory of evolution is founded on evidence that non-organic compounds are the basis of life development and organic. So I totally see why you guys are maybe tempted to choose C. It's actually a good one, okay? Now the thing about this is that you gotta think of, obviously you're not gonna find something that's super exact, you know, you're not really looking for an exact or precise synonym, but something that's most similar to the sentence. And I do know why you guys some of you are choosing C and not A. So what's wrong with A? I think it has everything, right? Those who said C, why didn't you choose A instead? Why not A? Or why C?
I think because the word founded on evidence, because in the paragraph says the assumption.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, I got you. So it's not the same, you know, assumptions and evidence. They actually might be, you know, misleading, because if you say evidence, that you're more sure about what it's like a stronger thing to base your theory on. But when you see assumptions, it's something that you're just assuming, you don't know really, or you cannot prove at least. But I think, you know, if you think, okay, the thing that you need to worry about is that your sentence, the one that you're choosing, needs to be about the same idea. So you gotta ask yourself, what's the main idea of this sentence? Okay, the theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from all life. So the main idea, what that sentence is trying to show, is what the theory of evolution is based on. So what's the basis of the theory of evolution? If you ask that question, then this is the direct response, right? What's the basis of the theory of evolution? The assumptions of blah, blah, blah. So that's the main idea of that. Another way of, you know, trying to catch what the idea is, think of the verb, the main verb of the sentence. In this case, it's this one, right? So the theory is based on that. So that's the most important part, what the theory is based on. Now, if you think about C, I get it. I know what you guys are thinking it could be the one. It has the same. If we assume, and here the assumptions that life, at its origin, that the origin of life developed from non-organic compounds, aka non-life, and develop in an unguided manner or progress and evolve in an undirected manner, this theory holds true. So it's the same, but the approach is different, you know, because in option C, it's not really about what the theory is based on. It's about something completely different. Option C is mostly focusing on when his theory would hold true. So if you ask the question, when can his theory hold true? Then the answer will be, well, assume that life and blah, blah, blah. So it's about a different, I mean, it has a different perspective on it. It's like about a different thing. It's not exactly on how this theory is based on. That's not the main idea of option C. Okay, but instead option A is on the same thing. Even though it's not exactly the same assumptions and evidence, it has enough synonyms: developed, developed, from non-life, non-organic compounds, purpose evolved, developed, indirect manner, and getaway. So even if it's not exactly the same, at least it's about it has the main idea, you know? So is it okay? Is this one clear? A tricky one, isn't it?
I think it was super tricky.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is. Feel you. Another thing about this question, it is tricky. I think that C could be the one. The thing about this is that this set is not officially from the ETS, so it's not an official practice set. So maybe that's why it's a bit confusing. Usually in the ones that we have here, it's that are offered by the ETS. It's clearer, to understand why the ones are the ones that we need to choose. But maybe that's why, I usually try to practice with real practice tests or past practice sets, or maybe the simulations that we have, because that will be closer to what you'll find. So any questions there? Okay. Then we have reference questions, which we saw last class. So in this case, they were asking you to find out what a certain pronoun refers to. So what does the word those refer to, or what does the word it refer to? And you just needed to choose the subject or the noun. So we looked at that last class. But now
Sorry, teacher. Yes, I found this question on internet, and it says that the correct is C.
Natural selection.
No, and the last one.
This one here.
Yes.
You sure? Because I got the set, and it says A.
Well, I found, and also it explains why it's C.
Okay, can you maybe share?
Yes. One moment.
Because I'm pretty sure I have it here. So let me look for it as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna allow you to share your screen.
Okay. It will be easy.
Okay.
You can see?
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Okay, I can see.
It's the same, right? Which sentence the true revolution is founded, etc. And I put C, and it's correct. And then it explains the question C is correct because the theory's assumption that non-organics. Then they say A is not correct because the word evidence is not appropriate, and the others also.
Okay, that's weird. Let me see what I have so we can compare.
Okay.
Okay, I'm checking. Because I'm pretty sure in the practice set that I download, the answer was, let's see. Okay. Okay, so I got it here.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I have a question to Eloy. Where can I find that page to practice TOEFL?
It's just I just put the phrase in Google and it appears. But I could I could pass you the link.
Okay, so I actually got the same one, but in a PDF version. So let's check. So it's question 3, right? Which of these sentences is most okay? So the answer should be next. Okay, where's? Oh, okay. So yes, you're right. It was C. Okay, that's weird. My bad. I'm so sorry, guys. I think I was wrong.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. So yes, then it is C. I thought it was A. I swear it was A. I don't know what word. I messed up. Okay. So yes, that explains the confusion then. Okay, guys. So thank you so much, Eloy, for that.
Okay, teacher.
Okay, guys. Sorry. So, okay, then C was the right one. Then I guess we were right about the evidence assumptions thing. Okay. So we're actually just missing the last one, which is the summary questions. And this one here is just asking you to summarize the main idea or the main ideas, because sometimes they ask you to look for more than just one of the whole passage. And of course, it's important that you understand like the whole idea of the passage in order to answer it. And the truth is that it's worth a bit more than the other ones, which is why it's a bit more important. It's actually worth like 2 of the other ones. But we're gonna try and answer this one. It's actually in this set. Now, the thing about this is that if you decide to do what we're doing right now and not read the entire passage first, then you may be thinking that it could be harder, and it could, but I think it's actually possible to answer this question without reading it first, without reading the passage first. Because if you realize, by the time you get to the 10th question, to the last one, then you pretty much read the entire thing. Because in order to answer question 1, you looked at paragraph 1. In order to answer question 2, you saw paragraph 2. For the third one, you paragraph 2, paragraph 3 here, then paragraph 4, and paragraph 5, and finally 6. So those are the 6 paragraphs that you have in here, you know? So I guarantee that there's not going to be like a paragraph that you don't have to read in order to answer a question. So that means that when you get to the last one, to the 10th question, you should have read the entire passage, even if it wasn't, right off all at once. So let's look at this. It is complete the summary by selecting the 3 answer choices that express the most important ideas in the passage. Now, some sentences do not belong in the summary because they express ideas that are not presented in the passage or are minor ideas in the passage. This question is worth two raw points or 2 points. Okay, guys. So I know that we haven't read the entire passage, but I would like to know what you think or how you're reasoning. So please read the options and tell me what you think. Take a guess, basically. So tell me which ones would you choose if you had to choose 3 ones. So here you go, from A to F. I'll give you 2 minutes. Okay, guys, so what would you say? What do you think about the options?
I think B, C, and E.
Okay, B, C, and E. Anyone else? Maybe Anna Evelyn, you there? Or anyone else? Okay. So the only thing you actually have to know to answer this one is just have even a general idea of what the passage was about. And I think you can do that just with the title, you know, the rise of Teotihuacan, which was the title, or as we saw, the development of Teotihuacan, which is a synonym. So let's look at what the answers are. We're gonna. Okay, so it was actually A, C, and E. Okay, so we got 2 right. Okay, so the best thing I could say here is just make sure that you don't choose any option that includes very specific details. That's too specific to be the one. And that's actually something that they say in here, you know, don't include any minor ideas. So if you look at F, for example, they talk about immigrants, how they settle in Teotihuacan between this period of time, Corres label, what have you. So the mistake that most people will make is they will read this and they will be like, oh, I do remember, it's gonna ring a bell, you know, and they're gonna be like, I remember something about immigrants, Corres label. So yes, that's something that's mentioned in the paragraph. So even if it's something that's mentioned, you wanna ask yourself, is that a main idea though? Is it broad enough to be a main idea? I don't think so, right? Because this isn't, the passage wasn't about immigration in Teotihuacan or coerced labor in Teotihuacan. No, it was about the development of Teotihuacan. So not F. The same happens with D, right? This is mostly about religion. So as a result of its large number of religious shrines, by the 1st century AD, Teotihuacan became blah, 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 religious center. Again, this is not about Teotihuacan's religion, but its development in many different areas. Religion, architecture, probably, I don't know what else. Like there are many different factors, elements that are mentioned throughout the paragraph. And the same happens with B. It's only about religion, their local religion, how it developed as a result of the cultural advances made possible by the city's great prosperity. So even though they talk about the city great prosperity in general, it's mostly focused on religion, which is not a main idea. On the other hand, if you look at A, C, and E, the 3 of them are quite broad. They talk about the development of Teotihuacan in many areas. For example, here we have sophistication of architectural, administrative, commercial, religious features of Teotihuacan indicate the existence of centralized planning and control. So that is basically telling you that Teotihuacan was a pretty organized center in many, with many of their features, from architecture, commerce, administration, religion, what have you. The same happens in C. Several factors account for Teotihuacan's success or development, including and not excluding natural resources, potential, the elite, what have you. And the same in E, right? In many important areas, from the obsidian industry to religious tourism, with many of them in between, Teotihuacan was the picture of positive feedback. Okay, guys, so just I think that's the main tip, you know. Sometimes you will also have some options that are not even mentioned in the paragraph. So of course, that's a no-brainer. Okay, guys. So is this okay for this one? I know we haven't exactly read, so it's okay if you're just taking a guess by now. So any questions about these or any other types of questions or anything we've seen today in class? or comments or tips maybe?
I have a comment, just a comment.
Sure, go on.
Just in this question, they don't put the introductory paragraph because this all the time has, right?
What do you mean the introductory paragraph?
In this kind of question, they always put a phrase, a short phrase, like an introductory paragraph.
Ah, okay, this one that they mentioned here?
Yes. In this example, they don't put them. I don't know how important is.
So yes, sometimes they are gonna add something like an introductory sentence, but it's gonna be part of the summary, you know? So it's just like, if you get the question, and that's weird because we don't have it here, you know, since it's a TOEFL practice, but if you get the summary or the introduction, then you're just gonna have to complete that with the summaries that you're gonna choose. So I wouldn't say it's that important. You can still answer it without it. But it's so that you have an idea of how a summary would look like, you know, so that you have an idea of how a summary should be. But yes, it should be general, not minor details. So yes. Okay, guys. Any other thing? Okay then. So please, before you go, don't forget the daily survey. And I'll see you all next week. We'll be looking at the listening section.